recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever it may be, across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 529. My name is Eric Nielsen. With me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Langguth. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, and it is a beautiful day here in Southern California. Matt, how you doing?
Eric, I am well. The weather here is turning colder. We had our first 30-degree day and probably since sometime early this spring. But enough about the weather. Things are definitely heating up. We're less than a week away here from VMworld. By this time next week, we'll be in the midst of everything. So how are you, sir? Are you getting excited for VMworld? How's the weather out there, and what's the color of the bay?
It is a beautiful day here. It's sunny in California. The weather is, classic fall weather, clear and clean. We won't get a lot of rain until October, and it is warm. It's going to be up into the 90s. We're getting a late summer going here. And so the color of the bay is a light green. It's smooth and not very much wind. A lot of green here in the Bay Area. So the smoke is all gone, and things, knock on cheap plastic here on my table, is our normal, right? Best you can say for 2020. On the show today, we're going to be talking about the vRealize 8.2 announcements. I think that's the right version. Matt Bradford joins us, as well as Julia Roman. So Matt and Julia, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Yep, sorry for the late start, but that's okay because most people download this on iTunes, and so they'll be just downloading it on their own time, so that's good. Do a little news before we get into the show. So news, obviously, Matt, as you mentioned, the big news is VMworld is coming up. It's just days. I think next Tuesday is going to be the time it starts. If you've been hiding under a rock, you should know that VMworld's coming up. You can still reg, you can still buy tickets. I know we're past north of 110,000 regs for VMworld, so it's going to be a lot of people, a lot of cool stuff. Even me and Matt recorded a really cool Birds of a Session backup recording, so in case something goes wrong, with Karen. What's her last name? Karen
Elazari. Karen Elazari. Karen's a security researcher at Tel Aviv University. She has a Birds of a Feather session coming up. It was incredibly interesting. I can't wait till the general public gets to see it next week.
Yeah, I would say the $299 pass, right, where you get access to some of these really cool sessions, right, where it's like limited number of seats, like 100 seats or whatever, but it's like the speakers. I listened to her, and I was pretty blown away by just some of the stuff she was going through and talking about from a global security perspective. One element that she brought up, a teaser, is just how many companies have been blackmailed in the last year, where they've been hacked into and then given the option of either going public with their schematics or software designs, or you pay them $1 million in Bitcoin. And one of the famous ones she mentioned was Tesla, and Tesla was blackmailed to the tune of $10 million, where they got in and they called the FBI, and they actually caught some of the people. But it's just fascinating talks. So VMworld's going to be what's happening for those $299 sessions, where they're small sessions, and you get to meet some really cool people. With that, we've got Code Connect October 1st and 2nd, and we announced the day 2 keynote speaker is going to be Pat Gelsinger. So Pat's going to come on Zoom and be available and do a talk about why VMware and developers and coders and automators are going to be the future of where VMware is going when you're talking about any app anywhere on any cloud. So that's exciting. He's going to come in, do a keynote for day 2. Kit Colbert is day 1 for VMware Code. So VMware Code free conference. You can go to code.vmware.com and register, and they send you the Zoom links, and you can go in and sign up for a lot of the sessions. I know that for most sessions, we have over 500 people signed up for the Zoom sessions. We can go up to 1,000 people on each Zoom session and still take live chat and live conversation. So that should be fun. The whole thing is live, and all of the speakers are real time. There's real-time coding. There's all kinds of stuff. We have had that on our hackathon, podcast before. And with that, we'll flip over to vRealize Automation. Matt and Julie, we always start the show by saying, give us the 1-minute elevator pitch, or maybe 2. How long have you been working at VMware, and what have you done in your career arc to get here? So Matt, we'll start with you first.
Sure. Yeah. I've been at VMware for a little over 4 years now. Came from the customer side, systems administrator for the healthcare space for a major hospital health system here in New Hampshire. And yeah, made the jump over to technical account manager at VMware. So helping out our big healthcare customers here in New England. And then made the jump over to technical marketing. Really wanted to get, ingrained with our engineering and product management and just get closer to the product. So here I am. I've been in this role for about 2 years now.
Very nice, very nice. And Julia, how about yourself?
Hey, Julie Roman. I've
Oh,
been
Julia.
on the
Oh,
tech
cool.
marketing team I'm the newest member, but I've been with VMware for 8 years and started over in tech marketing in May of this year. So I was also a TAM like Matt in the healthcare organization for many years, working with the largest customers on their implementations of vRealize Suite. And prior to that, I started out on a help desk. So I started in the banking industry, and then I moved into a research analytics company. And then I came to VMware.
My connection to healthcare is that I grew up with my father built big buildings, right? So he was a contractor, big building, and I worked on steel frames, that kind of stuff as a teenager. And one of the markets that my dad had was the healthcare industry, and we did buildings for hospitals. And it's really fascinating to get into the healthcare ecosystem, and how you build big hospitals and
Mhm.
all the components that go into hospitals, and then all the administration and all the IT that goes into hospitals. And there's a lot of industry there in the healthcare business, and it is fascinating to see how much infrastructure goes into creating a healthcare environment for people. So,
Yeah, lots of regulations.
yes,
Lots and lots of regulations.
Yep, that is absolutely true. And personal data, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, we're going to talk about vRealize and talk about the suite. So, which of you would like to take us through kind of the high level? What's happening with vRealize, the suite these days?
Yeah, I'll take it. We're announcing vRealize Suite 8.2. So really, Julie and I, we focus on vRealize Operations, vRealize Log Insight, both the on-prem version, so vRealize Operations Log Insight 8.2, and then we also have the SaaS version, so vRealize Operations Cloud and vRealize Log Insight Cloud. So a lot of cool stuff that we're cooking up here. A lot of great announcements actually coming next week at VMworld too. So we've got a list of sessions for everybody to check out. But yeah,
New suite. Any
yeah.
high level, big strategies that that the suite is taking us in? I can assume cloud automation or hybrid cloud environments. What are the big bullet checkoffs that that the 8.2 brings us, or is it just a lot of bug fixes? What are we talking about?
No, so much more than that. We're really focused a lot on applications troubleshooting for this release, as well as really kind of expanding our hybrid cloud. So a lot coming with public cloud with AWS, Azure, bringing a lot of new focus into those areas as well to just kind of give obviously a lot more observability into those environments, as well as Kubernetes too. So obviously VMware, we're highly invested in Tanzu, right, as our platform here for Kubernetes, and of course, with vRealize Operations, we want to tap into that and give observability into that space as well. So I'd say those are probably kind of the biggest ticket items here that we're focused on from an ops standpoint. And I don't know, Julie, if you got anything to add to that.
Not really. I mean, it's about managing everything in one place so you don't have different tools all over the place. So Matt kind of already mentioned that, but a common tool set across your environment, whether it's on-prem, hybrid, AWS, Azure, even doing some stuff with GCP.
So maybe I should just ask you this, which is, we've been talking to Kit and Pat about what they're going to talk about at the VMware Code keynotes, right? And one of the themes is, Tanzu, Kubernetes, the app layer, right? There has been a lot of churn when it comes to the last 5 years of Kubernetes and apps and microservices and how to manage them, and lots of different startups offering lots of different tools to, so it's like the wild wild, wild west out in the desert, right, of things scurrying around, drying up in the sun and evaporating, all kinds of products and services. But when you listen to Kit, and his talk is going to be about how with Tanzu and, embedded in vSphere, the automation, for microservices apps, all this just comes back to the same tools we've always been using, right? Which is vSphere, REST APIs, vRealize, the suite, right? That all of a sudden the people that were doing automation for systems can be the heroes of people doing automation for systems and apps, layering into the same old framework we've always had.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, actually, we've been having a lot of fun playing with vSphere with Tanzu in our lab. And I mean, again, kind of coming from that sysadmin background of being the VI admin, it's actually pretty easy to pick up that sort of stuff from a vSphere perspective too. And yeah, there's a lot of new CLI to learn, but it's really simple to learn. And kind of one of the benefits here is being kind of native to vSphere, right? Doing the vSphere with Tanzu, we, vRealize operations, we're able to pull in that data without any sort of customization or anything like that, right? If we're connected to that vCenter, well, vCenter has visibility into your namespaces, your pods, and, basically all of those constructs too. So, not only are we making it easier for our customers to deploy and use Kubernetes, right? We're also making it kind of, dead simple to be able to, deal with all the day two stuff as well.
And Matt, when you speak to day two, is there anything specific out there as far as lifecycle manager or lifecycle manager improvements that have been included with this release? We talk about the average day-to-day admin, and this is, it's a pretty complex product with multiple functionality and lots of different plugins to the entire vSphere suite. And managing all that can be a little bit complex, and lifecycle managers really made some great improvements. But is there anything specific within 8.2 that's helping to further that along?
Yeah, I mean, just being able to deal a lot more with the content management side of things, right? So with Lifecycle Manager, yeah, we deal with the deployment, the upgrades, all that sort of, kind of the day-to-day lifecycle. But one of the complexities has been, hey, what about all my customizations? What about the dashboards, the alerts, everything, super metrics, all these things that I built into my products? How do I handle those? So there's a lot more, kind of care and feeding around that sort of custom content. I'd say that's, certainly one of the biggest things.
Sure.
Makes sense. All right, so the trend is our way. The vSphere and Tanzu automating applications. We see the hybrid cloud environment taking off. We also see a lot of people just wanting to continue using what they've already used, but then adding functionality to that. So let's talk a little bit about feature sets and 8.2. Which product do you want to talk about first? And start exposing some of the feature sets.
Yeah, let's start with vRealize Operations 8.2, and I don't want to do all the talking. I don't know, Julie, if you want to talk any of the features, and we can kind of dive in. No, okay, all right. Yeah,
I'm just here for no. Yeah, that's fine. Do you want me to start out?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
What's
just for Login Site Cloud, we actually had a release in August that I just wanted to bring up because we have a lot of great enhancements around dashboard management, some drag and drop functionality. We also have added a ton of log sources for AWS native environments, which is a pretty significant update. We have a lot better alert management. We have alert snoozing capabilities. So when people are doing maintenance, they can schedule that so the NOC doesn't get spammed with alerts. So there's been a lot of improvements in that space. For the on-prem version of Login Site, we had a pretty huge release with 8.1. So 8.2, we're kind of focused on ERI. So we did some enhancements for FIPS and STIG. For STIG, there was a requirement for local accounts to be managed. So we have account lockout policies. And then we have a new attestation for STIG. it's a DoD requirement. As far as like my favorite enhancement for this release is really the scale. We can scale out further. So there's been some enhancements to performance, but also doubling the size of the nodes, and just updating content packs. We added one for the NSX load balancer. You may know it as Avi, and then updated for Horizon, VROPS, VRLCM, and then some optimized regex for our content packs just to make query performance a little better on those. So, and we're starting a marketplace so that content packs we can share with the community a little bit more fluidly. And then, oh, the export enhancements. We had already made a lot of enhancements, but now we have like email notification for exports. You can pause, resume, and cancel exports. So in the VRAP space, there's been some updates to vSAN. Matt will probably talk about it in a little bit more detail, but there's been a ton of work on dashboard management in general to give you more out of the box content, in addition to getting rid of some of the dashboards that weren't used as frequently, so you don't have this massive, you know, this massive list of things that you don't use.
Before we get away from Log Insight, because you did pique my interest a little bit on.
Oh,
Log
I should,
Insight.
yeah, sorry.
I remember when we acquired Log Insight, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, right? There was a big battle between Log Insight and who's the guys that are also in that market. They have like a, I want to say Slack, but it's not Slack. It's a name
Splunk,
of
yeah.
a competitor. Splunk,
Splunk.
that's it. Sorry, I have the S right. Yeah, so Splunk, and there was like it was a lot of competition between Splunk and Log Insight and that. But it seems like for the last few years now, you know, the data center and the whole stack has gotten so complicated that you really want to have, you know, a solution that just tightly integrates into all of the SDDC components that you're running, right? And so I don't feel like I hear about that competition as much anymore, as much as it's just like, it's just integrated in and it's a big part of the suite, right, that you get for vRealize. What are your guys' perspective on that integration and your feature set and product pickup? Because when we first acquired you, no one used it at all, right? And I assume over the years as we've integrated that we see quite a larger number of people picking up on that and just using it as part of the broad infrastructure environment.
Yeah. So Splunk, we play nice with Splunk. I mean, we have customers that need SIM solutions for security and audit purposes, and that's not VMware, that's not Log Insight, that's Splunk. But you don't need to use Splunk for all your logs. We know there's a cost variance there. So there's a people look to Log Insight because we do troubleshooting. We do proactive notification for events so that you can remediate an issue potentially before you have an outage. So we want all your logs, right? We want to get everything, and you can do variable retention for things that are only useful for a short time. And then what we do is we forward logs to Splunk using filters on the forwarders so that they're only getting the logs that they require for security and audit. And that's kind of, that's their space, and we don't play in that space. But you certainly don't need every Kubernetes log. You don't need every vSphere log going there. So we save customers money by filtering out the logs before they hit to Splunk, so they're not paying that higher storage fee.
Nice.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. It's you cohabitate with them, but then, you know, right, as I say, we have additional stuff that just plugs in and we use in the data center. So I feel that. I feel like that's part of it. And for me, the vRealize suite also helped that, right? As it plugged into vRealize, it just became a whole management solution, and there was just a component that we use, right? So that's nice. All right, that was my question. So vRealize Ops, I think you guys were trying to drill down on that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're doing a lot of focus on bringing in Obviously a lot more information from around the ecosystem within the data center. So we've actually, we're announcing integrations with application performance management solutions. So using what's already there, what's already being used by your application teams, and pulling that data, into a tool that you already know. So, just providing, again, better visibility to really kind of cut down on a lot of that back and forth, right? When you're trying to troubleshoot something with an application team, and we call it proof of innocence, right? It's not us, it's not the infrastructure, it's the app, and you're doing all that back and forth. By providing that same data within that tool that you're already using to manage your infrastructure, could really help cut down on a lot of that back and forth. So that's a big one that we're excited about. Integration with App Dynamics, Datadog, Dynatrace, and New Relic as well. There's also something cool called Flowgate. So this is it's on our Flings site. It's an open sourced tool that a couple of our really talented engineers have built. And we've got a management pack for pulling in data from Flowgate. So what that does is that collects information from around the data center. So your PDUs, your data center infrastructure management systems, your CMDBs, and be able to kind of correlate all that information together into vRealize operations. So when you're looking at that server, what your hot row and your cold row temperatures are, what your humidity is in the data center, what that PDU that it's connected to is looking like. So because obviously performance problems don't just live within the server itself. It could be something, maybe your data center is too hot and your CPUs are throttling, right? So being able to have that, be able to really kind of step outside and into your true environment, that's a pretty exciting thing that we're bringing. From a troubleshooting, kind of continuing down that vein, metric correlation was a big thing that we, announced a couple of releases ago. And what that does is, say you've got a metric that's interesting, you can say, okay, ops, show me what else correlates with this, whether it's a positive correlation or a negative correlation. So I don't have to go through and click through, potentially hundreds of different metrics to try to find something interesting on my own. And so we're expanding that out along with our troubleshooting workbench. So previously we could do metric correlation against an object, all metrics within that object, or against its peers. So other, VMs that are living alongside the VM that say you're trying to troubleshoot. And now we can do within the entire scope of the what you have set in the troubleshooting workbench. So if we're looking at a VM, we can go to the host, we can go to the data store, we can go to, the PDU. So a lot of really cool stuff on the troubleshooting side there as well. So
just browsing through now, that I didn't even haven't heard of this before. It's a Fling. So the Flowgate's a Fling. I'm looking at it on flings.vmware.com/Flowgate, and the integration out there with Nightlight and Pilar IQ and Infoblox and whatnot. Wow, what a powerful tool to really drill down into every aspect from your data center of, as you had mentioned, the PDUs, the power, the cooling, and whatnot. Pretty incredible tool set.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of really good possibilities there too with IoT. And the nice thing about Flowgate is that it's open source too. So yeah, there are some, I think, like Infoblox is one of the CMDB integrations. But if you have another system, say you're using, I don't know, like ServiceNow or something for your CMDB, it's open source. So hopefully through by opening it to the community, we'll see a lot more integrations there. And yeah, it's really exciting. So yeah, being able to bring all that into ops through the management pack is pretty cool.
Any other management packs out there, Matt, that have been added in? I'd see that this is a large management pack release.
Yeah, it is. vRealize Network Insight, for example, it's getting a revamp with that management pack. So one of the coolest things that, I play in the application space, so maybe a little biased, but one of the coolest things with that is, vRealize Network Insight. It's able to identify applications based on network flows automatically, right? It's pretty cool. And so with that integration with that management pack, we're able to bring those application constructs into vRealize operations too. So you don't have to go click through and kind of build out applications within the product. If you're already using Network Insight and it's already discovered those applications, we're bringing that in. AWS, we're bringing in more objects that we can manage. We can also pull in metrics from, and I'm blanking on their metric solution at the moment. All I can think is Flowgate now. But we could pull in metrics through some of the AWS agents right on your EC2 virtual machines. Again, kind of leveraging what's already there. So just kind of getting richer data from all of that. SNMP, some new improvements to that. We've actually, amazingly enough, we've had a lot of customer feedback that customers want to be able to ping their infrastructure. So we've got a new management pack for just pinging things. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff in there.
Neat. All right, so I'll flip back to Julie, but before I do that, what's new in vRealize Automation HCMB 1518? That's the VMworld session that's going to be titled What's New in vRealize Operations. If you were probably listening to this podcast, you're probably going to VMworld, because our 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 listeners, depending on which week it is, definitely are most of our people in our ecosystem. So HCMB 1518. Don't know who's presenting that. Don't have that up on my screen. Wonder who actually is doing the talk, or for in this case, probably already recorded the talk. But I assume it's not either one of you, because you're not raising your hand going, "Oh no, it was me."
Yeah.
But anyway, shout out to that session. Go get that one, and you'll learn everything that's in vRealize Operations from somebody, and it's probably an hour presentation on its own. So that's actually a good drill down. Julie,
That's actually the automation one you referenced, right?
Well, HCMB 1518 is vRealize Operations.
Oh, operations. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I say
No worries.
I meant operations.
Yeah, we get a lot of really
Okay.
cool demos on that
Okay.
one too, of everything we've talked about here. So that's a good one.
Mostly because I love automating things and I love scripting things, and so for me, vRealize Automation is the thing that. And then I talk to the network guys, and vRealize Insight. vRealize Network Insight is the one that they like to talk about. So I guess I have my favorite child there. But anything else that you want to call out in operations?
I would say for just being an end user of ops back in the day, I like my favorite updates are just the enhancements to dashboards, removing a couple of clicks for navigation. So just real simple things, but also we are deprecating a couple of dashboards that people probably the least use, but we also added a ton of new ones. Matt can. There's a lot of new content, and you can filter through dashboards so you're only seeing what you want. As far as the vSAN space, I cover vSAN for VRAPs. We added vSAN file services, so now we're collecting metrics for customers using file services. And then we have, overall, we have a lot of new configuration dashboards. So for vSAN, we have a configuration for the whole environment, and then you can drill down, at the cluster, at the disk group. You can check the flash, you can get all those values in there. So it's a little bit more intuitive as far as navigating around there. That was my kind of favorite update. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but.
One of the things that I like to ask is when it's time to upgrade, what does somebody expect to be able to upgrade to the new release?
What was the question?
When?
Is it when?
When and how long? How's that?
Soon.
Early October.
Right.
Early.
Maybe I'll be more specific. So when is soon the release? When I go to upgrade, right? Like, what's the difficulty and pain level required? How much should I allocate towards, upgrading the suite to the new release?
It's I'd say no different than upgrading to 8.1, right? We've actually well, for one thing, if you're on-prem, right? If you're SaaS, you're going to get this right away. We've actually done a lot of improvements to.
That was going to be my follow-up question.
Okay.
And then how does SaaS play in that? Do I get first if I'm on SaaS, or do I? Right.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of improvements to cut down on the downtime for upgrading SaaS. We've actually increased our SLAs around that. But from an on-prem standpoint, it's the same upgrade process and love. Whether you're using a Lifecycle Manager or if you're uploading pack files, on your own. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary for this release.
Okay. All right.
And Matt, can you go directly to 8.2? Like, let's say I'm on an older 7X version, or do I need to step up to 8 base and then go to 8.2? I mean,
Yeah,
what's the release cadence there?
You can leapfrog, at least speaking from VROps and Log Insight. You can leapfrog, I think 7.5, maybe sooner, earlier than that. But I know you can go 7.5 to 8.2 directly if you wanted to.
Okay. And Lifecycle Manager is going to help orchestrate all of that.
Yep.
All right. We talked about Log Insight, but I should flip back and go. There is a Log Insight session as well, HCMB 1729. So that's another one that you can check.
Yeah, we have 2 sessions. One's for Log Insight Cloud and one's for on-prem.
Okay, good.
Yeah, 1729, Julie, I'm assuming is the on-prem version.
Yep.
And then HCP 172 would be for the SaaS. Just
verifying it.
HCP 1727.
1727. Lots of sessions out there. We'll go through it all, but obviously great content out there for all of the management packs. This is a large suite, lots of content, some other hands-on labs that we'll get to. We'll mention with that as well that Julie and Matt had noted here that with this new release. So again, for the cloud release, so the SaaS service, HCP 1727.
So I also heard that the new release 8.2 is going to have like some Terminator robot that's going to just, manage it all for you. And AI has taken over all our jobs, and we're not going to have a job anymore. We're just going to sit home in our COVID environment because we're human and we get diseases where the robot's just not going to have to do this ever again, right? Like they're going to just run around and they're going to get to go live life, and we're going to be stuck in hiding from viruses. Are you guys allowed to talk about any of the AI that's going to be coming out in the product, or do we have to wait until VMworld to hear some of that?
We have a session. Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, we have a session that's in there. And there's a lab for. I'm sorry, looking in the chat that we have. So there's a hands-on lab for continuously optimizing vSAN performance with vRealize AI. We do have some public content for the AI stuff. That's not the latest and greatest, but we do have to wait till the 29th to talk about that.
Nice. So I teed it up with the Schwarzenegger thing because I know that we want to get people there and listening to that, and that there will be more that's going to be announced there, which I did a session the other day with, who was the guy that was recorded, Matt, that did AI and vGPUs with Robert Scoble. We had Robert Scoble.
Justin Murray
is like
there's a great blog post that Robert Scoble had put out with that interview that went live today that we can get out there, and I know that the main VMware account had just retweeted it this morning. A wonderful 45-minute interview of some of the new capabilities with vGPU and AI and machine learning.
Yeah. And I know we can't talk, but I was impressed by that it's out there, that you can go. They have sessions on AI as well, and just how much vGPUs and the work we've done in virtualizing the vGPUs plays into AI frameworks and AI infrastructure, and that how we're using that same infrastructure to make decisions around data center performance, right? And optimizations, which I find interesting, right? Skynet is going to be, we're slowly developing Skynets one piece at a time, right? Where it's going to self-heal itself, it's going to correct itself, it's going to look at itself, and pretty soon one day it's going to have a conscience and recognize that it's a data center thing, and then it's going to release some COVID-32 on us, and we're going to all be done. But it's really fascinating. And they were talking about just how we have off-cycle vGPUs. I think, Matt, they had a term for it where in the evenings when your vGPUs aren't being used, our products can go in and use those cycles to do, analysis and computation using that to do machine learning using your off-cycle vGPUs that are available to that, which I found really fascinating. Right.
Sure, if you have that large Horizon farm that's out there, and your workers are not utilizing it it's even 4 to 6 hours a day, why not be able to throw some workload against it in the data center and do some really high-end analytics for hardware that you already have.
Right. And this is where we're doing marketecture and marketing engineering, right? Because they're not allowed to talk about it. So me and Matt, we can go on and on about what we think it's going to be. And
we can't stop you.
Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl 15 more times. And they can't really say anything because they're not allowed to say anything, but it's awesome. And it is super impressive where we're going with AI. So I'm looking forward to that. And what was the session? HCP 172. HCP 172, definitely worth checking that out because that is vRealize Operations Cloud and vRealize AI Cloud. So really some pretty cool stuff there. Are you guys just teed up for VMworld? Have you looked at the rest of your year? Do you guys get to engage with customers and help them understand what we've got? What are you guys' role? Matt, I'll start with you and then I'll go to Julie.
Yeah, I mean, we're home for the rest of the year. Travel's been kind of cut back, but after VMworld, I mean, of course, Julie and I, we've got a couple roundtables that we're doing together at VMworld, and I think after this, we've got a bunch of TAM customer roundtables teed up after VMworld. So that's kind of our near term, plan for going around and talking about the new suite.
Nice. And Julie, I assume the same. Do you guys work hand in hand on stuff you're doing, or do you get to do other stuff?
Yeah, we have areas of focus, and we all just help each other out, and a lot of our stuff overlaps. And so I was really disappointed that it was online, just because of all the conversations, the side conversations that people have. But the exciting thing for me is how many people we have registered. You said 110,000 people. Or yeah, right. So I mean, that's just, for me, getting that broader reach is nice. I think some of the sessions being recorded, it's you're gonna have it. I think so much for me at VMworld was the outside of the sessions, because I always knew I could go back and check the sessions later. There were some where, you really had a question you wanted to ask. And so we will have some live sessions here. Matt and I have a roundtable session where people can kind of chat, which will be nice. So we're just kind of plugging along. We don't have, we probably won't be visiting customers till next year. We'll see though.
It's an interesting concept that we've seen, which is, yes, we don't get to see as people in real life, right? And so I am missing this whole, meet all the vExperts and engage with everybody and see the people behind the Twitter. But what I would say is the number of people we have reached and talked to, right, has probably 3 or 4x'd what it used to be, right? Like I look at the VMware code sessions, for instance, and typically we'll have, for any given session, 60 people, 50 people, maybe 100 people if it was really crowded in the audience, right? Because we focused everything online and it's real time, so it's not like it's just recorded, but it's a real time engagement. Now we're talking 500 people per session, right? And so that's 5x, and typically we maybe even will have 50 or 60. So it's almost like a 10x. I want to say it's a 10x moment where we don't get to, give each other hugs, but we do get to see each other and socialize with each other and tweet at each other and chat with each other in chat rooms. So that third monitor experience that I tell all my geeky friends, like, basically because of COVID now, I had to go get a third monitor just so I could have all the chat windows, like between Slack and Discord and Teams and, and Zoom chats and my iMessage when I just have a whole monitor that's just my comm center, right? And we've all had to become comm experts along the way. But it's been nice, right? Meeting as many people as we have.
Yeah, I need to seriously upgrade my office situation and gear. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's one of the things we recognize is that you know, it used to be I'd have my separate monitor for my IT apps, right? So I could watch what was going on. I could go over and click SSH into boxes or SFTP stuff, and that was my whole screen was designated to my ops center, right? Now I have to have another screen on the left that's just my comms center, right? People comms, right? Which is also good. Matt, looks like I'm looking. We're going to post this on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/vbarbecue, VBARBECUE. We post all the videos. So if you want to see what Julie or Matt's looking like, you can go over to our the YouTube channel. We recorded all, put these up. We will put this up later today, and you can see what they look like. Matt, it looks like you have guitars. I'm doing shout outs because Eric Hinder has guitars in his background. It looks like you guys have some guitars and amps. It looks like you got some pretty old amps sitting over in the corner.
Exactly. It's half workspace, half play space. So yeah, it's although the downside is it's a little too easy to look over at this screen here and see you Slack message and respond to it. But yeah, it's a fun hobby. Gotta have hobbies, during COVID.
Yeah, it is true. I was upstairs and I've actually moved downstairs because it was so hot and smoky in California that I just can't take over our living room, which is kind of like a multi-purpose playroom because I have 4 kids and we have that. And in my back is our Centipede. I got Centipede running.
Yeah.
But I also have a pinball machine over here on the other side. So there's my pinball machine.
Oh wow!
So, and then
Got
if
the
we
fun
really want
house.
to go crazy,
Yeah.
I got the basketball hoops.
Nice.
We're inside the smoke field. We still got everything going. And it's kind of cool when we talk about, what is the rest of your year going to be like, that kind of stuff. You get to meet people and you get to see where they live, right? And you get to see, that Eric sits in his living room with a pinball machine and geeky stuff with 2 pianos and a basketball hoop. But it is fun. You miss the personal experience, but you almost get a more personal experience with people too, right? Because not only you're like sitting for half an hour, camera to camera, face to face, right? Very close up, really, if you think about it, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm done trying to clean my office space here before meetings and everything. It's it's getting to be a bit too much. There's a little clutter behind me, but
I gave up on backgrounds, and it's just like, it is what it is. This is a dumping ground for all my stuff. So
that's what I
it
tell
is what it
people.
is.
Yeah, especially community people. If you're going to do these calls, you're going to be on podcasts, whatever, just show your world, right? Because it's actually a closer connecting kind of thing versus the guys that just put a fancy VMware backdrop behind them and
Their
really
face disappears and you can see.
Yeah. It's like just put some time, just show where you are, who you are, and it's all good. And then we got guys like Matt Langguth who, he makes his office nice. He gets glowing wood charm. The wood color, notice the wood color matches his beard color. I got to look at that. I got to go, gosh, this guy is like, he's on top of it. He's got everything. I just got my video games in the background. It's not going to happen. Matt, you do a good job color coordinating and backdrop lighting, got to say.
I'll take Centipede over beard matched wood trim any day, Eric.
Yeah, there you go.
And the walls match the shirt too. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, it's good. Well, okay, so that's what you're doing the rest of the year. Big release out. How often do releases come out nowadays? Are you guys on the every 6-month track, or what does it look like?
Exactly. Every 6 months, we look forward to another release. So, that's where we are across the entire suite. SaaS, like vRealize Login Site Cloud. I mean, Julie? They're pushing out every couple of weeks. I mean, something new.
I mean, quarterly for sure, but sometimes it's just, hey, this is really interesting to customers, need this, just flip something on. So it's nice to be able to do that and not wait for a big package release on the cloud
it's
side.
Gonna actually change a little bit of how we do our podcasting world, because we're at 520 episodes, give or take, and we always just wait for a big release, get guys on the show, people, and then go through the major features. But what we're noticing is it's like every 6 months, there's just new micro features, which is almost like almost like not a whole show, right? It's like one of these things where, oh, what 6 new features do you have? Okay. Oh, it does automatic. Yeah, an automatic. Oh, and so the fast pace of this, it's almost like we should have like a tweet podcast or something where everybody just, you come in and you just tweet your new features and we all retweet it. Oh, okay, here's the new features, because we are on this cadence and all the product teams are coming to us like this, right? You're not the only ones where, oh yeah, 6 months from now, you're going to have another set of features that are, and how are we communicating those to our audience, right? In a way that we're not just boring them because every 6 months we have another micro release we're talking about. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I would say is you guys are doing a good job of that. Customer uptick, healthy, people are managing, using. I hear more and more about vRealize every quarter, especially with the automation stuff in my corner of the world, which is code and automation. We have some good vRealize code sessions that we're doing, a couple of those. Yeah, it's good. Do you guys ever get into teaching people or engaging with them on the hands-off automation kind of stuff that's available?
Not a whole lot on the automation side. We really try to stick to our lanes of our areas of expertise, but certainly automation within our products using the APIs and stuff like that. I mean, we dive into that. We've got one guy, John Diaz, shout out to him on our team that he really kind of spans all the worlds, and he does all the automation sort of stuff across the suite. So he's actually got a pretty fun job digging in APIs, yes, and doing all that. Yeah.
He's a contributor for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Matt, I think we're coming, we got a 15, 20-minute late start, but we're 1:15, cutting to everybody's day here. So I suppose we should wrap up. Anything else you want to ask them before we?
Yeah, sure. To both Matt and Julie, as our audience, our listeners that are out there for new releases and these, micro improvements that we talked about, are either of you out on social channels, such as Twitter and whatnot? And would you mind sharing your handle?
We are, and we would. No, I'm on Twitter at VMspot. If you want to find out about micro releases or any sort of updates from the Cloud Management BU, there's the VMware Cloud Management blog. Just type that into Google; it'll take you right there. And that's where we publish all the latest and greatest news from the Cloud Management business unit. But personally, again, at VMspot, Victor Michael Spot, and then Julie.
I was going to change mine, but it's stuck. __ VRO was my Twitter handle.
That's a good one.
That's the best one. Well,
aside from the fact people can't tell that it's 2 underscores sometimes. But
__, and what was the VR ops?
VRO.
VRO.
For V Roman, but.
I just thought you're an orchestrator fan. Okay.
I know. I'm like, whatever. It's got dual meanings, right?
You can go on Twitter and you can edit it. It takes like 2 minutes, and you can just change it to anything you want. It's not locked to your user account.
I know. I couldn't. I try. You go in there and you try and edit it, and it's like not available. Oh, here's a suggestion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the end. So I gave up.
And you're on the record here at V-Barbecue, so it's going to stick.
Right. So now I got to keep it.
When we were listening to Kieran earlier, she had a good one. She had at K3R3M3. So it was kind of neat where she just used the 3 and separated it. It's one of these things that no one would ever, think to use, right? Which was pretty cool. So there's ones out there, but hey, __ VRO. That's easy and it's unique. I give you credit. That's almost as good as the K3R3M3 or whatever hers was. Pretty cool. Matt, always fun. Thanks a lot for being patient as we got our tech together. We are on TalkShoe, vmw.re/pod. You can go listen to us there. If you want to, you can go get iTunes and download it or subscribe to it. It'll automatically download to your iTunes podcast app, and you can just listen to us every week. We're here every Wednesday, 12 to 1. We run them every week, no matter how disorganized we are. We get them. We just talk to people that are running. And if you want to be on the podcast, you can reach out to me or Matt, Eric and I Pro, ERICNIPRO. Matt, what is your social media handle these days?
At GSXESX.
GSS ESX.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he's got that one down. Reach out to us. Happy to have you come on the show, talk about what you're doing out in the field or at customers, or if you're a customer, always happy to talk to everybody out there in the community. This is the Community Podcast. We are done for today. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Julie. Have a great show. We're looking forward to VMworld as everybody is. And, I'm sure we'll have you back on for yet another micro release in the future. Thanks a lot.
Can't wait.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Bye.